Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay.
Imagine for a second, right? The simple act, something we all do, wishing someone a happy birthday.
Yeah, basic human connection. Warmth.
Totally. Now, imagine that simple thing, that message, gets you arrested, in prison. It's quite astonishing when you actually stop and think about it. A story that really makes you pause.
It does. And what's really revealing here is how something so, innocuous, so harmless seeming.
Like a birthday wish.
Exactly. How it becomes this flashpoint for much bigger things. Freedom, control. It just lays bare the anxieties of a regime.
Right, it tells a bigger story.
A much bigger story about a nation struggle.
Absolutely. So today we're diving deep into this specific incident. It happened recently in Myanmar. An employee of the state media arrested over a Facebook birthday post. And our mission really is to explore what this single event tells us about freedom of speech there, about political repression, and just the ongoing human story in Myanmar. We want this deep dive to be useful for you, our listeners, so you really get the what, the why, and maybe the so what behind it all.
Get the full picture.
Exactly. Truly well-informed. Okay, so let's get to the heart of it. The person involved, Hin Yin Phu. She works for MRTV, that's Myanmar's state-run media, and on June 21st, 2025, she was arrested.
Right.
And not just anywhere. At her state media accommodation in Naypyidaw, the capital.
So basically, arrested by her employer, the state, at housing provided by the state.
Pretty much sums it up. The very place she was supposed to be, well, safe within the system.
Yeah.
So what was this message, this incredibly dangerous state destabilizing message?
Must have been something pretty inflammatory, right?
You'd think. Was it code? A call to action? Well, the post was deleted after her arrest, but people saw it. It said, "May you live long and be free from illness. May you be free from the suffering caused by separation from your loved ones throughout your life. And may you only meet good people."
Wow.
May you only meet good people. That's part of what got her arrested. Can you wrap your head around that? What does this tell us about the charge?
It tells us, well, everything really. The charge against her was spreading propaganda with the intention to destroy state stability.
Propaganda for that message.
Exactly. And it's crucial to get this. The charge isn't actually about the content. As you said, the words are, well, they're universally positive, aren't they?
Completely benign.
Right. It's about the act itself, the act of independent expression. It's a classic catch-all accusation that the junta, the military council running things now, uses all the time.
To stifle dissent.
Any dissent, any deviation at all from their official line, no matter how tiny or innocent it looks from the outside. And it's insidious, this kind of broad legal threat. It makes people self-censor.
Yeah, you start watching everything you say, even a birthday wish.
Precisely. It creates this climate where the absurd becomes normal, and fear just shapes everything. It's a deliberate strategy. Control.
And here's the part that gets really, really interesting, or maybe just deeply ironic.
Good one.
She works for MRTV, the state's own media mouthpiece.
Right, part of the propaganda machine, ostensibly.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, getting fired from the factory for wearing the company uniform, but maybe wearing it slightly askew. It's absurd, but it tells you so much about the regime's paranoia.
Oh, absolutely. That detail screams fear of internal fracture.
You think so? More than just silencing general dissent.
Definitely. Look, for someone inside their own system, their own propaganda arm, to express any sentiment that could possibly be seen as sympathetic to an opponent, even super indirectly.
Like wishing Aung San Suu Kyi well on her birthday.
Exactly. That's seen as an existential threat. It suggests disloyalty is possible, even within their own ranks. They're terrified of that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It wasn't just her, remember? You mentioned this isn't isolated. Around that same time, 2 other Facebook users got arrested. Similar vague charges. Social media stuff.
So it's a pattern.
A clear pattern. A chilling effect. They're showing everyone, even a thought crime, even by one of our own, won't be tolerated.
Which brings us to why this particular birthday wish was such a big deal. The recipient, Aung San Suu Kyi.
A name everyone knows.
Right. Her story is just inseparable from Myanmar's modern history. Born June 19th, 1945, in what was then Rangoon, now Yangon. And her father,
General Aung San.
the architect of Myanmar's independence, a national hero, assassinated when she was only 2.
Tragic.
Yeah. She spent a lot of her early life abroad, studied at Oxford, but then she came back in 1988. Initially, it was to care for her sick mother.
But things changed fast.
Dramatically. She got swept up in the pro-democracy protests happening then. And she quickly co-founded the National League for Democracy, the NLD. just propelled onto the scene.
And it raises that big question, doesn't it? How does someone become this global icon of nonviolent resistance?
Nobel Peace Prize winner?
Right. How does that person become such a constant, enduring target for the people in power? She led the NLD to that massive win in the 1990 election,
Huge landslide.
which the military just ignored, annulled the results.
Yeah.
And that defiance, that led to her spending, 15 of the next 21 years under house arrest?
An incredibly long time.
Became this potent symbol, though, her commitment to democracy nonviolently. That Nobel Prize in '91 came while she was detained. She was this global beacon against military rule. Her story inspired people everywhere.
And the story kept going, more drama. Released finally in 2010.
Yeah.
And then, incredibly, the NLD wins again in 2015. Another massive victory.
Huge mandate.
Now, the Constitution, written by the military, basically, stopped her from being president because her kids are foreign citizens.
Right, that clause.
But she became state counselor, effectively the leader of the country. It really felt like maybe Myanmar was finally turning a corner towards democracy.
It did feel like that. For a time?
Yeah.
But then, well, her legacy gets really complex.
You're talking about the Rohingya crisis.
Exactly. In 2017, her international standing took a huge hit. How she handled or didn't handle the military's brutal crackdown on the Rohingya Muslim minority.
She defended the military's actions or seemed to minimize it.
Her perceived inaction, her silence, or worse, her defense of the military, it led to widespread condemnation, accusations of complicity in what many call genocide or ethnic cleansing.
From hero to, well, something much more complicated.
Deeply complicated. Former supporters were horrified. Human rights groups turned on her. It forced this really difficult global conversation,
Yeah.
about power, compromise, ethics.
A tough chapter.
Very. And it still hangs over her legacy.
And then the hammer fell again. February 2021, the coup.
Wiped it all away.
Her democratically elected government overthrown. Just like that.
Yeah.
And since then, prison.
Serving a sentence of, 27 years.
27 years on charges like corruption, breaking COVID rules, things that international groups widely say are just fabricated.
Politically motivated.
Yeah.
Designed to keep her out of the picture permanently.
Exactly. And here's the poignant detail, bringing us right back to Hin Yin Fu's birthday wish.
Mm-hmm.
Aung San Suu Kyi turned 80 on June 19th, 2025, in prison.
Makes that simple wish, may you live long, resonate even more, doesn't it?
Profoundly. And this whole incident, it also shines a light on Facebook's role in Myanmar, which is kind of bizarre.
How so?
Well, think about it. Facebook is officially blocked there since the 2021 coup.
Right, the junta banned it.
But it's still wildly popular. Everyone's using VPNs, virtual private networks, to get around the block.
So it's like the digital version of a speakeasy during Prohibition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Officially shut down, but absolutely thriving underground. People are determined to connect.
And it just highlights how futile the junta's attempts are to totally control information. They block things, people find ways around it. VPNs, encrypted apps like Signal, Telegram.
They offer some privacy.
Some security, yeah. And Facebook, even being blocked, it's been so critical for the pro-democracy movement there.
How?
Sharing news the state media won't report, organizing protests back when that was more possible, just expressing dissent, connecting with the outside world. It's a lifeline.
So the junta tries to shut it down, but can't fully succeed.
They really can't. It's not like the old days where a dictator could just cut the phone lines. The internet, even a censored internet, it provides pathways for resistance. They just can't completely eliminate. It's like digital whack-a-mole for them.
And then the sheer irony just slaps you in the face.
Yokas.
They're arresting someone, Hin Yin Fu, for using a platform, Facebook, that they've supposedly banned.
Right.
It's like banning a book and then throwing people in jail for reading the banned book they somehow got their hands on.
It shows a hypocrisy, sure, but also maybe the desperation. They can't control the platform, so they go after the users in this really visible, scary way.
Sends a message.
A terrifying one. And we need to zoom out here for a second. Hin Yin Fu's arrest, as shocking as it is, it's not some random isolated event. Not at all.
Part of a bigger picture.
A much bigger, systematic, and brutal crackdown that's been relentless since the 2021 coup. Human rights groups estimate, over 20,000 people arrested?
20,000. That's staggering.
Many on these kinds of vague, trumped-up charges, just like her. It's a deliberate strategy. Use fear, maintain control, crush any opposition, real or even just perceived.
And it's not just arrests, is it? It's the psychological toll.
Absolutely. Constant surveillance, the chilling effect on what people say, how they act, even in private. Self-censorship becomes a survival tactic.
And the human cost beyond the arrests,
Yeah.
it's immense. The country's basically in a civil war now.
Full-scale civil war. You have pro-democracy groups, the People's Defense Force, the PDF, and various ethnic arms organizations fighting the military. The military holds the big cities, mostly, but the resistance controls huge swaths of this countryside.
Making it incredibly volatile and dangerous for ordinary people.
Millions displaced. Humanitarian aid blocked or restricted. Daily life for so many is just a struggle to survive. And the military's tactics, often targeting civilians. It's grim. They seem willing to go to any length.
And what about the outside world? How does that play into this?
Well, it's this really complex geopolitical game, as always. The economy's been hit hard by sanctions from the U.S., the EU, other Western countries. Foreign investment has plummeted.
So sanctions are having an impact?
Yes, but the junta still gets support from allies like Russia and China.
Which complicates things.
Hugely. It complicates international efforts to isolate the regime, to push for change. And there's always the debate about sanctions, right? Do they hurt the regime enough, or do they hurt ordinary people more? Do they actually entrench the regime sometimes?
Difficult questions, no easy answers.
Not at all. It's this constant push and pull between external pressure, internal resistance,
Yeah.
and the people of Myanmar are just caught right in the middle of it all.
Painfully so. And looking back, Myanmar has this long, tragic history with military rule, doesn't it?
It really does. This isn't new, sadly. It stretches back to 1962. General Ne Win's coup established that sort of isolationist socialist state for decades.
Right.
Then the huge protests in 1988 led to another coup. The military council, then called SLRC, took over.
Yeah.
That's when Aung San Suu Kyi really emerged internationally. Her house arrest became this global symbol.
A symbol of the struggle.
Exactly. And then fast forward the 2010 Constitution, which seemed like progress.
Allowed a civilian government.
But, and this is key, it baked in significant military power. Reserved seats in parliament, control of key ministries.
So even when the NLD won in 2015, the military still held significant levers of power.
Precisely. It set the stage for that hope, that brief opening, and then the reversal in 2021. When you look at Aung San Suu Kyi's life, it mirrors the country's story, really. This cycle of hope, repression, hope again, then despair. Always against this backdrop of military dominance.
It's heartbreaking. So how has the world reacted specifically to Hin Phu's arrest and the broader situation now?
Well, the condemnation has been pretty widespread. The UN, human rights groups, governments around the world, all calling for her release, calling for an end to the crackdown.
And the sanctions continue?
Yes, the U.S., the EU, others have imposed sanctions targeting military leaders, military-owned businesses, trying to squeeze them financially. But again, the debate is about effectiveness. How much do they really bite?
And it creates this dilemma, doesn't it? What should the international community do?
It's a huge dilemma. Some argue for more direct support, even arming the resistance groups.
But that could escalate the war.
Massively. Prolong it, make it even bloodier. Others push for continued diplomatic pressure, engagement, trying to find some kind of peaceful path, however unlikely that seems right now. There are no good options, really, only difficult ones.
And meanwhile, inside Myanmar, the implications are just dire. Freedom of speech isn't just limited, it feels like it's under direct assault.
Completely under siege.
And the fact that even someone working for state media, MRTV, isn't safe. That says everything, doesn't it?
It speaks volumes. It shows the depth of the paranoia. This isn't just about fearing active opposition. It's about fearing the idea of opposition. Even a subtle hint, even an innocent birthday wish.
A regime that afraid is a dangerous one.
Extremely.
So bringing this all together, what does this mean for us, for you listening? This story, this deep dive, it really shows how an act we consider totally normal, almost trivial.
A birthday post on Facebook.
Yeah, can be revolutionary, or at least be seen as revolutionary and incredibly dangerous in a place ruled by fear. Can you honestly imagine being arrested for wishing someone well, for hoping they only meet good people?
It really forces you to think. And it raises a question, I think. In this world, just flooded with information, with noise, how do we even spot these subtle acts of resistance, these quiet moments of defiance? And maybe more importantly, what role do these seemingly small gestures actually play in the much larger global fight for basic freedom and human dignity?
Something to definitely mull over. It's a harsh reality out there, and maybe a reminder for all of us about how fragile freedom of expression can be. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.